just did my job.
That's what Samuel J. Green kept repeating as they walked him out of the very office where he had spent 22 years investigating corrupt officials.
That's all I did. I just did my job.
Sir, stand up.
Except his job, the actual job, the one the city of Philadelphia hired him to do, was to catch people like him. Samuel Jerome Green, 44 years old, senior investigator, Philadelphia Office of the Inspector General. The man the city trusted to root out bribery, kickbacks, and financial misconduct inside municipal government. And in less than 60 seconds, federal agents would load him into a vehicle outside City Hall, $1.4 million richer than his salary ever made him.
For me.
I didn't do anything wrong. I just did my job.
Dispatch, we have the subject beginning detention.
I didn't do it. You've got the wrong person.
Turn around, hands behind your back.
I just did my job.
He did do his job, just not the one anyone knew about. Within 72 hours of this footage, the FBI would execute search warrants at 3 separate locations. Green's home in Chestnut Hill, a storage unit in northeast Philadelphia registered under his brother-in-law's name, and a safe deposit box at a credit union in Lansdowne containing $214,000 in cash. 47 criminal charges. $1.4 million in documented bribe payments. 31 municipal contractors, construction companies, waste haulers, IT vendors, facilities managers, who had been paying Samuel Green to look the other way, to bury their files, to write clearance reports for investigations that were never actually conducted. 22 years with the city. And for the last 11 of them, every case he touched, every clearance he signed, every finding of insufficient evidence he submitted, he had never once done the job clean. Before we continue, do you know who investigates corruption in your city? Do you know if anyone is actually checking the people doing the checking? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. We cover cases of institutional betrayal like this every single week, the stories that don't make the front page but absolutely should. Samuel Jerome Green was born in August 1979 in West Philadelphia, 4 blocks from where his grandfather had worked a loading dock for 30 years. His mother, Carolyn, was a clerk at the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas. She processed filings, organized dockets, watched lawyers and judges move through the building with an authority she respected and a certainty she never quite trusted. She had seen enough to know that the system worked better for some people than for others, and she talked about it openly at the dinner table. She wanted her children to understand the difference between how things were supposed to work and how they actually did. His father, Raymond, was a Philadelphia police officer for 26 years. Patrol, then detective, then a quiet retirement at 53 with a pension and a bad knee. Raymond Green was not a cynical man, but he was an honest one. He told Samuel early that the uniform only meant something if the person inside it meant something too. He said it more than once. Samuel listened, or appeared to. Samuel was the second of 4 children. They lived in a narrow row house on Funston Street. 1 bathroom, a backyard the size of a parking space, a front stoop where the neighborhood gathered on summer evenings. Carolyn kept the house immaculate. Raymond kept the hours consistent. Dinner at 6:30. Church on Sunday. Report cards reviewed at the kitchen table with both parents present. Samuel was the one who asked the most questions. His 3rd-grade teacher wrote that he had an unusually strong instinct for fairness and would argue a point longer than most children his age if he believed he was right. By high school, he had channeled that into debate. 2 years on the team at West Philadelphia High, competing in tournaments across the region. He was good. His coach said he had a gift for identifying the weakest point in any argument and pressing it until it collapsed. He graduated in 1997 with a 3.3 GPA and a partial scholarship to Temple University, where he majored in criminal justice and minored in public administration. His professors remembered him as engaged and principled, someone genuinely interested in the mechanics of accountability. How institutions catch wrongdoing, what makes oversight systems succeed or fail, where the gaps are. In the summers, he interned at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, sitting in on meetings, reviewing case files, watching how public corruption prosecutions were built. He found it fascinating. Not the courtroom drama, the architecture of it. How investigators identified patterns. How paper trails revealed what people tried to hide. He told his academic advisor he wanted to be the person who found those patterns before they became scandals. He graduated Temple in 2001 with a 3.5 GPA. He applied to the Philadelphia office of the Inspector General in the spring of 2002. He was hired in September of that year at a starting salary of $41,000. His first performance review described him as thorough, ethically grounded, and exceptionally motivated. His supervisor wrote, "Samuel understands this work at a level that takes most investigators years to develop. He is going to be excellent at this." He was. At the parts of it that served him. For the first 10 years, the record was clean. He worked his way through the office's standard caseload, procurement irregularities, timesheet fraud, conflict of interest complaints, and built a reputation as precise, methodical, and difficult to argue with. Supervisors trusted his judgment. Colleagues deferred to his experience. He advanced steadily, without drama, the way honest people do. In September 2012, after a decade with the office, he was promoted to senior investigator, municipal contracting. The promotion came with a salary increase to $74,000 and something far more significant than the money: exclusive jurisdiction over the city's entire vendor ecosystem. Every construction company, every waste hauler, every IT vendor, every facilities management firm doing business with the city of Philadelphia fell under his authority. He was now the investigator that contractors feared most. He was also, as it turned out, the one they needed to know. To understand how Samuel Green collected $1.4 million in bribes over 11 years without being caught, you first have to understand how municipal inspector general offices actually function, and why they contain a structural vulnerability that almost no one talks about. The Philadelphia office of the Inspector General was established to investigate fraud, waste, corruption, and misconduct within city government. It operates independently of the mayor's office and the city council. It has subpoena power. It can compel documents, interview city employees, and refer findings to federal prosecutors. On paper, it is one of the most powerful oversight bodies in municipal government. In practice, its effectiveness depends almost entirely on the integrity of its investigators. Here is how an OIG investigation works in Philadelphia. A complaint comes in from a city employee, a contractor, an anonymous tip, or a referral from another agency. It is assigned to an investigator. That investigator is responsible for gathering records, conducting interviews, and producing a findings report. The report goes to a supervising investigator, then to the Deputy Inspector General, then, if prosecution is warranted, to the DA or the U.S. Attorney's Office. The key word in that process is assigned. Investigations are not randomly distributed. Senior investigators like Samuel Green, with established track records and specialized expertise, are often assigned entire categories of cases. Green's specialty: municipal contracting. Vendors doing business with the city of Philadelphia, construction, sanitation, facilities, technology, were his domain. He was the person contractors feared. And, as it turned out, the person they needed to know. The oversight mechanism, supervisory review of his findings reports, was designed to catch shoddy work, not fabricated work. If Green submitted a report saying a contractor had been investigated and cleared, his supervisor reviewed it for completeness and consistency. No one was independently re-interviewing witnesses or re-pulling the underlying financial records. The system trusted him. The volume of cases made independent verification impossible. The system was built on one foundational assumption: that the investigator assigned to catch corruption was not himself for sale. It did not account for the possibility that the person who best understood every gap in the oversight system was using that understanding to exploit it. The first payment came in November 2013, 14 months into his tenure as senior investigator. A mid-sized construction contractor named Ace Site Services had been flagged for potential bid rigging on a city paving contract worth $2.3 million. The complaint was credible. A former employee had filed it, alleging that Ace had colluded with two other firms to ensure they won the bid at an inflated price. It was exactly the kind of case Green was hired to investigate. The owner of Ace Site Services was a man named Gary Perroni. Perroni had been around Philadelphia municipal contracting for 20 years. He knew how these investigations went. He knew what a full audit could uncover. And he had heard, from people in the industry, that the right conversation with the right person could make a problem disappear. He reached out through an intermediary. The number that came back was $18,000. Green met Perroni once, at a diner in South Philadelphia, for 40 minutes. 2 weeks later, he submitted his findings report on Site Services. Insufficient evidence to support the allegations. Case closed. The $18,000 arrived in 4 cash installments over the following 6 weeks, delivered by Peroni's project manager to a parking structure on Broad Street. Green was not caught, so he kept going. By 2015, word had moved through the contractor network the way all useful information moves, quietly, carefully, and faster than any one official would believe. The investigator in municipal contracting. He was reachable. He had a number. Green never solicited. He didn't need to. Contractors under investigation found ways to make contact. Some through intermediaries. Some through lawyers who knew how the conversation worked without ever saying anything that could be repeated in a courtroom. The structure was always the same: a payment in advance, a finding of insufficient evidence, a case that closed without referral. The amounts grew with his seniority. In 2013 and 2014, payments ranged between $12,000 and $25,000 per case. By 2017, with 4 years as senior investigator and a reputation as the office's most capable contracting specialist, he was being assigned the largest, highest value cases in the city. Individual payments reached $80,000 and $120,000. He structured the deposits carefully, never more than $9,500 at a time, spread across accounts at 4 different institutions. In early 2014, after the first few payments had cleared without issue, he registered a consulting LLC in Delaware under a variation of his middle name. Some deposits went into his personal accounts. The rest went through the LLC. He filed taxes on a portion of the income, claiming it as consulting revenue for municipal process advisory services. The IRS never flagged it. The lifestyle inflation was deliberate and controlled. He did not buy a Lamborghini. He did not move to a mansion. He moved from a rental in Germantown to a purchased row house in Chestnut Hill. Nicer, but not conspicuous for a senior government employee with 2 decades of seniority. He drove a 3-year-old Audi. He took vacations to the Caribbean once or twice a year, which he could plausibly attribute to credit card points and frugal living. He paid for his daughter's private school tuition in cash installments, telling the school administrator he preferred not to use checks. He was careful because he understood, better than almost anyone, exactly what investigators look for. By January 2024, the documented total had reached $1.4 million. 31 contractors. 47 cases buried, cleared, or quietly closed without referral. 11 years of Philadelphia's anti-corruption infrastructure pointed directly at the city's contractor ecosystem, and the man running it had been the ecosystem's most reliable protection the entire time. The beginning of the end came in March 2024. Not because of an audit, not because a contractor talked, but because of a coincidence that Green could not have anticipated and could not have prevented. A federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania had been investigating a separate matter entirely: a network of fraudulent city contracts involving a waste management company called Allied Metro Services. The investigation was run by the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. It had nothing to do with the OIG. It had nothing to do with Samuel Green. Until it did. An FBI forensic accountant named Claire Ostrowski was tracing the financial records of Allied Metro's owner when she noticed a pattern in his outgoing payments that didn't fit the fraud scheme she was mapping. Periodic cash withdrawals, structured, consistent, going back to 2016, delivered to a parking structure on Broad Street. The withdrawals didn't match any vendor, any employee, any known associate of the target. She flagged it to the case agent as a loose end worth pulling. The case agent pulled it. Allied Metro Services had been investigated by the Philadelphia OIG in 2016. The case had been assigned to Samuel Green. The finding: insufficient evidence. Case closed. The case agent ran a query on every OIG case Green had closed without referral since September 2012, when he was first promoted to senior investigator. Then she cross-referenced the contractors involved against the FBI's existing financial surveillance data from unrelated investigations. In 11 of those cases, she found the same pattern: structured cash withdrawals. The same parking structure on Broad Street. The same 6 to 8 week window following Green's case closure. She called the U.S. Attorney's Office the same afternoon. A parallel investigation opened the next morning. Green was placed under covert surveillance without the knowledge of the OIG or the city. Over the following 6 weeks, FBI agents documented 2 additional cash deliveries. They identified the LLC registered in Delaware. They subpoenaed 4 banks. They found the safe deposit box in Lansdowne containing $214,000 in cash. They had enough. On April 17, 2024, the arrest warrant was signed. April 22, 2024. A Monday. 8:14 a.m. Samuel Green arrived at the Philadelphia OIG offices on the 4th floor of the Municipal Services Building, 2 blocks from City Hall, at his usual time. He signed in, stopped to talk to a colleague about a Temple basketball game from the weekend, poured coffee, and walked to his desk. He had 3 open case files in front of him. He had a supervision meeting at 10. He had lunch plans. He had been under surveillance for 41 days and did not know it. At 8:21 a.m., 4 FBI agents entered the building. 2 in plain clothes. 2 in jackets with FBI in yellow letters across the back. They took the elevator to the 4th floor. The floor had 17 staff members at their desks when the agents walked through the main door. Every person in the room saw them come in. They walked directly to Green's desk. The lead agent, a 14-year veteran of the FBI's Public Corruption Unit named Special Agent David Park, spoke first. Samuel Green. Green looked up from his monitor. That's me. FBI. You're under arrest for bribery, honest services fraud, and conspiracy. Stand up, please. He didn't stand. He sat very still for approximately 3 seconds, long enough that Agent Park took a step forward, and then he stood slowly, both hands visible, and said the thing he would keep saying. I just did my job. That's all I did. I just did my job. Park nodded to the agent beside him. Turn around, please. 22 years. I gave 22 years to this city. 11 of them in this unit. I put people in prison from this desk. I just did my job. We know what you did, Mr. Green. Turn around. He turned around. The handcuffs went on at 8:24 a.m. 16 colleagues watched in complete silence. The colleague he had just been talking to about basketball was still holding his coffee cup. He did not set it down. He watched Samuel Green walk between 2 federal agents toward the elevator, past the wall where framed OIG case outcomes were displayed. Years of corruption investigations, successful referrals, municipal contractors prosecuted, public officials removed from office. Cases Samuel Green had worked. His access card was deactivated before he reached the lobby. He was transported to the FBI field office on Arch Street and processed before 10 a.m. He missed his supervision meeting. Before we get to sentencing, if accountability coverage like this matters to you, subscribe. These are the stories that shape how your city actually functions. We cover them every week. The federal indictment was unsealed on April 22, 2024, the same day as the arrest. 47 counts, 23 counts of bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds, 14 counts of honest services wire fraud, 6 counts of structuring financial transactions to evade reporting requirements, for counts of filing false tax returns. Green's attorney, a former federal prosecutor named Howard Keene, entered a not guilty plea and immediately filed motions to suppress the financial surveillance evidence, arguing that the parallel investigation had been improperly predicated on materials obtained in an unrelated grand jury proceeding. The suppression motions were denied. By August 2024, facing the full weight of 47 counts and a documented paper trail spanning 11 years, Green entered into plea negotiations. In September 2024, he pled guilty to 8 counts, 2 bribery counts, for honest services fraud counts, and 2 structuring counts, in exchange for cooperation with the ongoing investigation into the contractor network. The cooperation produced 11 additional indictments against contractors and their intermediaries. Gary Peroni, the Ace Site Services owner who made the first payment in November 2013, pled guilty in November 2024. The victim impact statements at sentencing did not come from individuals. They came from institutions, and from the people inside them. Deputy Inspector General Patricia Huang, who had supervised Green for 6 of his 11 years as senior investigator, submitted a written statement that was read into the record. Every case he closed without referral is a case we cannot now reopen with confidence. Every contractor he cleared may or may not have been guilty. We no longer know, because the investigation cannot be trusted. He did not just steal money. He stole 11 years of institutional credibility that this office spent decades building. We do not know how long it will take to rebuild it. We do not know if the public will trust us while we try. James Reardon, a city building inspector who had blown the whistle on a contractor in 2019, a contractor Green subsequently cleared, testified in person. Reardon had been reassigned after filing his complaint, a consequence he had always suspected was connected to the investigation going nowhere. "I told the truth," he said. "I documented everything. I filed it through the proper channels. And I watched nothing happen. I thought I had done something wrong. I thought maybe I'd misread the situation." He paused. "I hadn't misread anything. He just cashed the check." Sentencing was held January 14, 2025, in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Judge Constance Merritt presiding. "Mr. Green, your father wore a badge for 26 years in this city. Your mother processed the paperwork of this city's courts. You grew up inside these institutions. You understood, better than most people who work in public service, exactly what they are for and exactly what they cost to build. You chose this career. You passed every ethics review. For 10 years, you did the work honestly. And then you were handed the keys to the most sensitive jurisdiction in this office, the city's entire contractor ecosystem, and within 14 months, you had sold the first one. You investigated other people for doing what you were doing. You sat across from corrupt officials and asked them to account for themselves. And then you went back to your desk and took another payment. The particular cruelty of what you did is not the money. It is the cover. Every case you buried gave the contractors who paid you the confidence to keep operating. Bid rigging continued. Substandard work continued. Taxpayers paid inflated prices for city contracts for 11 years, in part because the person responsible for stopping it was being paid to allow it. You did not just take bribes. You manufactured the appearance of oversight while gutting its substance. You made this city less safe, less fair, and less able to trust the systems designed to protect it. This court sentences you to 13 years in federal prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. You are ordered to forfeit $1,412,840 in documented bribe proceeds. You are permanently barred from employment in any public sector or government oversight capacity. You will pay full restitution to the City of Philadelphia in an amount to be determined by the ongoing contractor fraud recovery proceedings. Samuel Green stood straight throughout. He showed no visible reaction. He was remanded to custody immediately. As he was led from the courtroom, he said nothing. He had stopped saying he just did his job sometime in September, when he signed the plea agreement. Samuel Green is currently held at FCI Cumberland in Maryland, a low-security federal facility. His sentence is 13 years from January 2025. Federal inmates typically serve 85% of their sentence. With good behavior, his earliest possible release is 2036, when he will be 57 years old. Without it, he serves until 2038. The safe deposit box in Lansdowne has been seized. The Chestnut Hill row house has been sold as part of the forfeiture order. The Delaware LLC has been dissolved. His daughter attends a public school now. His wife filed for divorce in June 2024. Raymond Green, the Philadelphia police officer who told his son that the uniform only means something if the person inside it means something. Raymond Green did not attend the sentencing. He has not made any public statement. He is 71 years old. The Philadelphia Office of the Inspector General commissioned an independent review of every case Samuel Green handled across his 2-decade tenure, with specific focus on the 11 years in which he held senior investigator authority over municipal contracting, from his September 2012 promotion through his April 2024 arrest. The review is ongoing. 14 cases have been flagged for reinvestigation. 3 contractors previously cleared by Green have since been suspended from city contracting pending new findings. The City of Philadelphia has implemented mandatory case rotation for municipal contracting investigations, eliminating the practice of assigning entire contractor categories to single investigators. An independent audit of OIG case closure decisions is now conducted annually by an external firm. Gary Peroni, the contractor who handed over the first payment in a South Philadelphia diner in November 2013, 11 years ago, was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison in February 2025. He will be out before Green. I just did my job. 13 years. Federal. $1.4 million forfeited. 22 years of public service. 11 of them corrupt. That was his job. Stories like this don't get the attention they deserve. If you want to see more accountability coverage, subscribe and turn on notifications. The case on your screen right now, the role of trust was even higher. The damage went even deeper. Click it now.